The ocean. It covers more than 70% of our planet. A vast churning blue engine that dictates our weather, produces our oxygen, and holds 99% of the Earth's living space. From space, it is a serene marble of blue and white, but on its surface, it is a force of nature. And beneath that surface, miles down in the crushing dark, it is something else entirely. It is a void, the last true frontier on our planet. We have sent probes to the fiery surface of Venus and the frozen plains of Mars. We have peered into galaxies billions of light years away. We have mapped the human genome. But we have not mapped our own ocean. Over 80% of our seabed remains unmapped, unseen, and unexplored. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of the sea. The reason is simple, and it is brutal. Pressure. Down there, the weight of the world is literal. The pressure is so immense it can crush military-grade titanium like a soda can. The darkness is absolute, a blackness untouched by sunlight for millennia. The cold is just above freezing. It is, in every sense, alien territory. And it is in this territory, this uncharted abyss, that our greatest mysteries lie. These are not simple puzzles. These are stories of vanishing titans of steel, of sounds louder than any known creature, of structures that defy geology, and of questions that science, with all its power, simply cannot answer. Today we are not just looking at mysteries. We are looking at the unsolvable. We are diving past the point of known science into the crushing depth of the unknown.
May 1968. The world is on a razor's edge. The Cold War is at its absolute peak. In Vietnam, the Tet Offensive has shocked the world. In the oceans, a silent, deadly game is being played. American and Soviet submarines, boomers, and hunters are stalking each other in the deep. They are the nuclear deterrents, the gatekeepers of mutually assured destruction. Each one is a self-contained world of secrets, steel, and nuclear fire. Among them is the USS Scorpion, SSN 589, a skipjack-class nuclear attack submarine. She is not a boomer, she doesn't carry ballistic missiles, she is a hunter-killer, fast, quiet, and deadly. On May 21st, 1968, the Scorpion is heading home to Norfolk, Virginia, after a tour in the Mediterranean. She sends a routine position report, placing her southwest of the Azores Islands. The crew of 99 men is expecting to be home in a week. Then, silence. The Scorpion misses its scheduled arrival on May 27th. At first, the Navy isn't panicked. Radio silence is common. But as the hours stretch into days, a cold dread sets in. A search begins, a secret, massive search. The Navy cannot admit to the world or to the Soviets that it has lost a nuclear submarine. Weeks pass, then months. The Scorpion and its 99 men are gone, vanished. The Navy quietly declares the sub presumed lost. The families of the crew are left in an agonizing limbo. The task of finding the wreck falls to one of the Navy's top deep-sea experts, Dr. John Craven. Craven is a brilliant, unconventional mind. He knows he isn't just looking for a needle in a haystack, he's looking for a needle in a haystack that's at the bottom of a 2-mile-deep, pitch-black ocean. Craven doesn't use grids. He uses something else, Bayesian probability. He gathers a team of mathematicians, salvage experts, and submarine specialists. He doesn't ask them, "Where do you think it is?" He asks them, "What do you think happened? Was it a battery explosion, a torpedo malfunction, a collision, a Soviet attack?" He has them all place bets on their best theories. He uses their collective intuition to create a probability map. He focuses the search not on the sub's last known location, but on the place his map suggests the wreckage would be. 5 months after the sub vanished, in late October 1968, the naval research ship Mizar, towing a deep-sea camera sled, gets a hit. 2 miles down, on the floor of the Atlantic, it's the Scorpion. But it is not a submarine. It is a graveyard. The images are horrifying. The Scorpion has been shattered. The main hull is relatively intact, having imploded with catastrophic force as it passed its crush depth. The stern is torn clean off. The sail is gone. The torpedo room, in the bow, appears to have been blown apart from the inside out before the final implosion. The 99 men are gone, entombed within the wreck or scattered on the seabed. The Navy had found the what, but they had no idea of the why. A formal court of inquiry is launched. They study the photos, the acoustic data, the sub's history, and their final conclusion is that they have no conclusion. The official report, released in 1969, states, "The certain cause of the loss of the Scorpion cannot be ascertained." This is where the solvable ends and the unsolvable begins. The data is too damaged, too deep, and too contradictory. The mystery splinters into 3 dominant and terrifying theories. Theory 1, the Soviet attack. This is the cinematic, and in 1968, the most plausible. The Scorpion was reportedly observing Soviet naval activity near the Azores Islands. Did the Soviets see it as a threat? Did a Soviet submarine or an anti-sub warship fire a torpedo? The evidence against this is strong. The U.S. Navy, using its SOSUS listening network, heard no sounds of a second vessel, no torpedo ignition, no explosion consistent with an external attack. Furthermore, if the Soviets had sunk an American nuclear submarine, it would have been an act of war. The political fallout would have been unstoppable. It likely never happened. Theory 2, the hot run torpedo. This is the theory that haunts submariners. It's the snake eating its own tail. The Scorpion was carrying Mark 37 torpedoes. These torpedoes were powered by a silver zinc battery. This battery was known to be volatile. If seawater leaked in, it could overheat, catch fire, and, in a worst-case scenario, detonate. Another possibility is a hot run, a torpedo that accidentally activates inside the tube. It starts its engine, its propeller spinning, ready to launch. Unable to get out, it overheats and explodes. Acoustic data from the time does show a small explosion, followed seconds later by the sounds of the hull collapsing, and then, 90 seconds later, the final catastrophic implosion as the main hull hit crush depth. This theory fits the evidence. It explains the acoustic data, and it demolished the state of the torpedo room. But it's not proof. The wreck is too mangled to know for sure. The Navy itself, in a 1970 report, called this the most probable cause, but later analysis has cast doubt. Which brings us to Theory 3, the catastrophic battery explosion. The Scorpion was old. It was plagued with mechanical problems. Its crew reportedly called it the USS Scrap Iron. Its main battery, a massive silver zinc battery in a compartment beneath the torpedo room, was known to be problematic. These batteries could vent explosive hydrogen gas. A simple spark, a faulty connection, and the entire compartment could ignite. This would have been instant, a massive explosion ripping through the bow, killing the crew, destroying all systems. The sub, now a dead piece of steel, would begin its long, silent fall. It would pass 700 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, until the pressure became too great and the sea crushed what was left. This theory also fits the facts. It explains the acoustic data, it explains the damage. So which is it? A faulty torpedo? An exploding battery? We don't know. The U.S. Navy has classified much of the information. The Court of Inquiry's final report remains inconclusive. The wreck itself is a tomb a nuclear-powered mausoleum 2 miles down. It is too deep to salvage, and the Navy has designated it a permanent memorial. The 99 men of the USS Scorpion did not die in battle. They were claimed by the deep by a sudden, violent, and ultimately unknown failure. Science gave us the where. It can even give us the what. But the why remains lost in the dark, trapped forever in the crushed hull of the USS Scorpion.
Let's move from the industrial graveyard of the Cold War to the pure elemental mystery of the deep. The year is 1997. In the vast, empty expanse of the South Pacific, thousands of miles from any continent, scientists at the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, are listening. They are using a network of underwater microphones called hydrophones. This network, a relic of the Cold War called SOSUS, was originally designed to do one thing: listen for Soviet submarines. But with the Cold War over, this billion-dollar system has been turned over to science. Now it listens for earthquakes, whale songs, and the shifting of tectonic plates. On a routine day in 1997, the sensors pick up a sound, and it is a sound unlike anything they have ever heard before. They call it the bloop. It's a simple name for something profoundly strange. Here is the first problem. The bloop was loud. Incredibly loud. It wasn't just heard by one sensor. It was picked up by hydrophones over 5,000 kilometers apart, a distance spanning from Los Angeles to New York. To be heard that far away, the source had to be of an almost unimaginable magnitude. Here is the second and more disturbing problem: the sound's profile. Scientists are used to geological sounds. Ice quakes, sea quakes, underwater volcanoes, they all have distinct, recognizable acoustic signatures. They sound mechanical, chaotic, like rock shearing or ice cracking. The bloop did not sound geological. It sounded organic. It had the signature of a living creature. The frequency variations, the structure of the sound, it was, by all analysis, biological. But this was impossible. The loudest sound ever recorded from an animal is the 200 decibel call of a blue whale. It is a sound that can travel hundreds of miles. The bloop was many times louder than a blue whale. For a living creature to produce this sound, it would have to be of a size that science and biology say cannot exist. It would be a creature larger than any whale, larger than any dinosaur, a true leviathan. For years, the mystery of the bloop was one of the ocean's greatest what-ifs. It was a perfect, unsolved riddle. The data was clear, the implications were fantastical. And then, in 2005, NOAA began a new mission to acoustically survey the Antarctic. They deployed hydrophones near the ice shelves, and they began to hear sounds. Sounds of massive icebergs calving, cracking, and breaking apart. They heard sounds that were extremely loud, extremely low frequency, and traveled vast distances. They heard the bloop, or rather, sounds that were very similar to the bloop. In 2012, NOAA officially closed the case. The bloop, they announced, was not a monster. It was an ice quake. The sound of a massive Antarctic iceberg cracking and breaking away, its sound waves traveling the entire globe. It's a clean answer, a scientific answer. It wraps the mystery up in a neat geological bow. But Is it true? This is where the mystery persists. For one, the acoustic signature of the bloop is still not a perfect match for any other icequake recorded, before or since. It remains unique. For two, the location. The epicenter of the bloop was traced to a remote point in the South Pacific, coordinates 50 degrees south, 100 degrees west. This location is not in a high-activity glacial zone. It's in the middle of the open ocean. And here is the strangest, most chilling coincidence of all. Those coordinates, 50 south, 100 west, are remarkably close to the location of the fictional sunken city of Riley, the place where, in the stories of H.P. Lovecraft, a colossal, ancient creature called Cthulhu lies dead but dreaming. A coincidence? Absolutely. But a chilling one. Science says the bloop is ice. It is the most rational, data-driven explanation. But a part of the mystery remains stubbornly unsolved. The sound was unique, the location was strange, and the sound profile still looks more biological than geological. The ocean is 80% unexplored. We have no idea what lives in its deepest trenches. We discover new species every year that defy our understanding of biology. Is it possible that something vast, something ancient, and something biological made that sound? Science says no. But the data just isn't 100% sure. The bloop is a case closed with a question mark. A monster that was explained away, but perhaps not entirely. We are diving deep into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, and we have 3 more massive anomalies to explore. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive investigation and want to ensure you don't miss our future expeditions into the unknown, take a second to subscribe to this channel. Your support is what makes these long-form investigations possible. Now, we leave the realm of sound and travel to a physical object that has divided the scientific community. From a sound we can't fully explain, we move to an object we can't identify. The Baltic Sea. It is one of the world's most crowded waterways. It's also a graveyard. Thousands of shipwrecks litter its floor, from Viking longships to German warships from World War II. It is a treasure hunter's paradise. In 2011, a Swedish oceanography team named Ocean X, led by Peter Lindbergh, was doing what it does best, hunting for shipwrecks. They were using side-scan sonar, towing a device that paints a picture of the seabed. They were looking for a 100-year-old shipwreck. Instead, they found something else. At 300 feet down, their sonar painted an image that made them stop. It was a perfect circle, a massive circular object, 60 meters or 200 feet wide. It looked artificial. It was so out of place that the crew's first joking reaction was that they had found the Millennium Falcon. But this was no joke. The object was real. It wasn't just the shape. There were other strange features. Leading away from the object was a skid mark, a disturbed area of the seabed 300 meters long, as if this thing had plowed into the ocean floor before coming to a stop. And on the object itself, the sonar revealed features that looked like steps and perfectly straight 90-degree angles. They called it the Baltic Sea Anomaly. The image went viral. The world was captivated. Was it a natural formation, a secret Cold War-era anti-submarine device, or was it something else? a USO, or unidentified submerged object. The Ocean X team secured funding and went back down, this time with divers. The conditions were terrible. The Baltic is dark, cold, and murky. Visibility was almost zero. But the divers found it. They touched it. Their reports only deepened the mystery. They said the object felt like rough granite, but they also reported that their electrical equipment, including their satellite phones and some cameras, failed when their boat was positioned directly over the anomaly. When they sailed away, the equipment mysteriously started working again. They managed to retrieve a sample, a piece of rock chipped off the object. They sent this sample to a geologist, Volker Bruchert, at Stockholm University. And this is where the story splits in two. The geologist's report was definitive. The sample was a rock. Specifically, it was basalt and granite, entirely common, entirely normal rocks that were deposited by glaciers during the last ice age. The anomaly, Bruchert concluded, was just a glacial deposit, a unique but entirely natural rock formation. The skid mark was just a trail of glacial debris. The steps were the result of natural fractures in the stone. Case closed, right? Not for the Ocean X team. They claimed their own analysis showed the rock was coated in a material like limonite and goethite, metals that they claimed were not found in nature and were perhaps part of some artificial structure. This claim, it should be noted, has been heavily disputed by geologists, as those are very common iron oxides. And what about the electronic interference? The satellite phones that mysteriously died? Bruchert and other scientists had no answer for that, because it was purely anecdotal. It wasn't a controlled scientific experiment. It was a story told by the divers. And so the Baltic Sea anomaly sits in a state of scientific limbo. On one hand, we have the Occam's razor explanation, the simplest answer. It's a rock, a weirdly shaped rock, but a rock nonetheless. The low-resolution sonar is making it look more geometric than it really is. The divers' stories are just stories. But on the other hand, we have the anomaly itself. The shape is so perfect. The skid marks are so straight. The divers' reports of electronic failure are so specific. To truly solve this mystery, a major, multi-million-dollar expedition would be needed. A full-scale scientific survey with high-resolution sonar, magnetic imaging, and core drilling. But who would fund such a thing when the most likely answer is that it's just a rock? And so the anomaly remains. It is unsolved, not because the science is impossible, but because the will to investigate it is gone. It lies in the dark of the Baltic, a 200-foot wide question mark, a perfectly circular riddle that is either one of the most mundane glacial deposits on Earth, or it is something else entirely. Science can't or won't give us the final answer.
The loss of the USS Scorpion happened in the fog of the Cold War. Our technology was limited. But surely, in the 21st century, with satellite, GPS, global communication, and hyper-advanced submarines, we couldn't just lose one. Surely a modern sub couldn't just vanish. November 15th, 2017, the ARA San Juan, a TR-1700 class diesel-electric submarine, is on a routine patrol for the Argentine Navy. She is a modern, capable vessel, built in Germany. She has a crew of 44.
At 7:30 in the morning, the San Juan's captain sends his final message. It is a troubling one. He reports that seawater has entered the submarine's snorkel, a large tube used to pull in air from the surface to run the diesel engines. The seawater, he reports, has dripped down onto the forward battery banks. It caused a short circuit and a battery fire. This is one of the most dangerous emergencies on a submarine. But the captain's message is calm. He reports the fire is extinguished. The forward batteries have been isolated. The sub is now running on its rear batteries. He has been ordered to cut his patrol short and return to his base at Mar del Plata. It is the last time anyone ever hears from the ARA San Juan. It vanishes. The hours pass. The San Juan fails to check in. A search and rescue operation is launched, and it becomes one of the largest, most desperate searches in modern history. 40 ships, 13 aircraft from over a dozen countries, including the US, the UK, and Russia, all converge on the South Atlantic. They are racing against the clock. If the San Juan is sitting on the seabed disabled, its crew has only 7 days of oxygen. The world watches, hoping for a miracle. The days pass. 1, 3, 7. The window for a rescue closes. The mission shifts from rescue to recovery. But the ocean is vast. The search area is thousands of square miles. The weather is brutal. Weeks turn into months. The submarine is gone. The 44 crew members are lost. The Argentine government is in crisis. The families of the crew are devastated, demanding answers. The official search is called off, but the families protest, camping outside the presidential palace. A private company, Ocean Infinity, is hired to continue the search. And then, on November 17, 2018, exactly 1 year and 2 days after the submarine vanished, they find it. A remote-operated vehicle diving 920 meters, over 3,000 feet down, sends back the first images. It is the San Juan, but it is a scene of total destruction. The sub's hull has imploded. Debris is scattered over a large field. The pressure at that depth, over 1,300 pounds per square inch, had crushed the vessel. The discovery brings a terrible closure to the families, but it opens an agonizing, unsolvable mystery. We know what happened. The submarine sank, it passed its crush depth, and the ocean destroyed it. We do not know why. The captain's last report said the fire was out. Was he wrong? Did the fire reignite, spreading toxic smoke, overwhelming the crew? Or did the short circuit cause a delayed, massive hydrogen explosion in the battery banks hours after the initial message? This is the acoustic event theory. Hours after the sub's last call, hydrophones in the region did pick up a single, sharp, anomalous sound. A sound consistent with a sudden, catastrophic implosion. This suggests the submarine was intact, and then, in an instant, it was gone. What could cause that? A massive sudden leak? A hull failure? Did the initial fire damage a bulkhead which later burst under pressure? Or did the crew fighting a fire make a fatal error in navigation and accidentally dive the sub too deep? The wreck cannot tell us. It is too deep to salvage. The submarine is too damaged. The black box, data recorders are gone, destroyed in the implosion. The 44 crew members took the final terrifying moments of the ARA San Juan with them to the bottom of the sea. The Scorpion was a mystery of the Cold War. The San Juan is a mystery of the modern age. It is a terrifying reminder that despite all our technology, the ocean remains the master. It is a place where a 200-foot-long, 2,000-ton steel warship can be swallowed without a trace. leaving behind only one simple and crushing question. Why?
Our final mysteries have been about destruction, about the ocean as a graveyard, a force that consumes and hides our failures. But what if the ocean is also a museum, a vault that preserves a history we never knew existed? We travel to the far coast of Japan, to the small island of Yonaguni. In 1986, a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake is exploring off the coast. He's looking for new spots, maybe a good place to watch hammerhead sharks. He dives down, and he sees something that shouldn't be there. It is a structure, sprawling from the seabed, rising over 25 meters, is a massive terraced complex of stone. It is not a random pile of rocks. It looks designed. He sees what appears to be a massive terraced pyramid. He sees giant steps, some over a meter high. He sees sharp 90-degree angles. He sees formations that look like roads, and one that looks like a giant carved turtle. He reports his discovery, and soon the scientific world is in an uproar. A professor of geology from the University of the Ryukyus, Masaaki Kimura, begins a lifelong obsession with the site. He dives it hundreds of times. His conclusion is explosive. This, he claims, is not a natural formation. This is a man-made monolith, a city, a ceremonial site built by a lost civilization. He dates the structure, and because of the known sea level rise, he claims that for this to have been built on land, it must be at least 5,000 years old, perhaps even 10,000 years old. This is the core of the controversy. 10,000 years ago, humanity was in the Stone Age. We were hunter-gatherers. We were not supposed to be building massive, complex stone cities. The Great Pyramid of Giza, by comparison, is only 4,500 years old. If Kimura is right, the Yonaguni Monument doesn't just add a chapter to human history, it rewrites the entire book. But is he right? Enter the skeptics. Robert Schoch, a professor of geology from Boston University, dives the site, and he comes to the exact opposite conclusion. It's all natural. Schoch argues the rock is sandstone, and sandstone is a sedimentary rock that naturally fractures along parallel bedding planes. He claims the steps are just natural erosion. The 90-degree angles are just the way the rock breaks. The roads are just channels carved by currents. He points out that the monument is still, in fact, attached to the main rock mass. It wasn't built from separate blocks. It's one giant piece of stone that has been eroded into this shape. This is the conflict. This is the scientific stalemate, where one man, Kimura, sees a city, another man, Schoch, sees a rock. Where Kimura sees stairs, Schoch sees natural fractures. Where Kimura sees a lost civilization, Schoch sees a geological curiosity. How do you prove definitively that a shape is artificial versus natural? Without a smoking gun, it's impossible. If divers found a tool, a piece of pottery, or a carving of a human face on the monument, the debate would be over. But they haven't. The evidence
is just the stone itself, and the stone is silent. It is open to interpretation. The Yonaguni Monument is a Rorschach test for scientists. What you see depends on what you are prepared to believe. Is it a 10,000-year-old city that shatters our understanding of the past? Or is it a spectacular but entirely natural coincidence of geology and erosion? Science cannot provide a consensus. The monument remains, shrouded in mystery, just 80 feet below the waves. It is a riddle of stone, a lost city that may have never been a city at all.
From the crushed hull of the USS Scorpion, a tomb of Cold War secrets, to the impossible sound of the bloop, a ghost in the acoustic data. From the electronic silence over the Baltic anomaly, a circle of stone that defies easy answers, to the tragic modern loss of the ARA San Juan, a fresh wound that shows our technological limits, to the silent stone city of Yonaguni, a mystery that pits our history against our geology. These are not just stories, they are boundaries. They are the points on the map where our knowledge stops and the abyss begins. The deep sea is not just an empty space, it is a barrier of pressure, of darkness, and of time. It is a vault that guards its secrets with a physical force we can barely comprehend. We, humanity, live on the thin, sunlit skin of this planet. We tell ourselves we are its masters. We have charted the stars. We have split the atom. But in the deep, we are not masters. We are intruders. And the 80% of our world that remains in darkness is a humbling and terrifying reminder. The mysteries remain, not because we haven't looked, but because the ocean itself refuses to give up its dead and its secrets. We've traveled from the Cold War to the modern day, from ghost ships to ghost cities. But now the question goes to you. Of all the mysteries we covered, which one do you find the most compelling? Which one do you believe science will one day solve, and which one will forever remain in the dark? Let us know your theory in the comments below.